This is All of It. I'm David First, in for Allison Stewart. She's off for a few days to celebrate both the nation's birthday and her own. It is on July 4th, so happy birthday, Allison. Coming up on today's show, we speak with WQXR host Emmy Ferguson about newly discovered music by Mozart, and we'll hear it being played. We'll get ready for this weekend's big 250th celebrations by learning about New Jersey's Revolutionary War history. And we'll talk to the team at the South Street Seaport Museum about their new exhibit titled The Promise of Liberty, Words That Shaped a Nation. All of that, plus we preview the new documentary Mary Oliver, Saved by the Beauty of the World, ahead of its premiere tomorrow. That's the plan, so let's get this started. National Geographic explorer and wildlife photographer George McKenzie Jr. was not someone who grew up around nature. In fact, he grew up right here in the concrete jungle in Brooklyn. Before he picked up a camera, George wielded a gun. As a young man, he got caught up in a cycle of violence, but after surviving a serious attack, George decided to change his life. He began working at a camera store, eventually became an assistant for a National Geographic photographer. Now, George has dedicated his career to capturing images of wildlife. He lives in Florida, taking photos of bears, panthers, gators, and more, and he has become a mentor for other aspiring photographers. George's story is the subject of a new short documentary from the LA Times studios. The film is called The Book of George. You can watch it now on YouTube or the LA Times website. And we are joined now by photographer George McKenzie Jr. Welcome.
Hey, good afternoon, New York City. How's everybody doing today?
It's great to have you with us. In the documentary, you describe a childhood in Brooklyn that was full of violence, and you share that you used to go to school carrying a gun. When you were growing up, what role did violence play in your surrounding neighborhood, in your life?
It was a very normalized activity where I grew up, so it was something that was very familiar to me. So it was very easy to replicate when I found myself in a situation to do hard things and I didn't want to do it. It was easy to turn to that as the option.
You felt yourself getting sucked into that life of violence yourself?
Oh yeah, 1000%. It has a very strong pull, and it's really easy to follow if you have a blueprint. And that's what I had with my older cousins who were very much into that kind of stuff.
You describe a moment in the documentary when you were very seriously injured, and when you woke up in the hospital, your first thought was of retribution. How did that mindset start to change for you?
Well, it changed because the amazing doctor at that point, she refused to give me medication. So she said, if I give you this medication, you're going to go and I'm going to have two of you here. And I don't want that. And it really hurts when you have an indentation at the top of your eye of someone hitting you in your head with a hammer. So I prefer to get the medication and be better. So that it was an easy decision in retrospect, but in that moment, it was one of the hardest things that I had to do.
So talk about the first time you picked up a camera. How did that happen?
So I am very basic, I'd like to tell people. So I was at a party one time and I saw this young lady who was aesthetically pleasing to me. And once I got up enough courage to talk to her, I did what most young men do. I asked her for her number and she said, still too early in the party. How about you meet me afterwards? And as I was waiting for her, I noticed all the other young ladies that were aesthetically pleasing to me were hugging and kissing the event photographer. And I'm like, wait, women photography? And boom, that was there was no like moment of, oh, I saw this.
I need to
No.
be an event photographer.
Yes, and that's exactly how my career started. I started off as an event photographer, and I slowly but surely learned I had to change my approach. I had to take showers more often. I had to rely on my sisters to dress me a lot better. And I had to develop a certain charm and charisma to interact with young ladies. And that's how I got started. That's the first film.
It's fascinating to hear what the things are that spark us and get us off on our path. What about the first wildlife that you photographed? It maybe here in New York.
It was in New York. I met a National Geographic photographer when I worked at one of the more infamous camera stores in New York City, and that's called Adorama. Huge shout out to Adorama and Ben and Satish who hired me. And Charlie came in and he wanted to buy a bag. We haggled, and it was on the Shabbats, so he didn't know B&H was closed because he's not from New York, but I did. So I kind of haggled, and I bugged him for 2 years to be his assistant.
For two
And
years.
for 2 years, literally Facebook, Instagram, whatever I could do. And he had finally had a story to do for the magazine on the smartest birds in New York City, and it was pigeons. And it blew my mind because growing up in New York City, for a lot of us, we are taught they're rats with wings, basically. And even the New York City Parks and Rec ran a campaign that said, feed a pigeon, breed a rat.
Hmm.
And they all over the city. And that's my spark bird. And as I was talking to the producer earlier, I was showing her I actually have a tattoo of a pigeon on my shoulder.
Oh wait, where I'm looking at this right now. You do. I can confirm you have a tattoo of a pigeon on your shoulder. So I take from this tattoo that that moment changed your appreciation for pigeons.
It changed my appreciation for all wildlife in New
Hmm.
York City. I later on followed up that story with doing another magazine story with Charlie on rats in New York City. So I know the smell of rats and roaches, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I'm one of the few people listening to this on this station right now in this moment that have seen a baby pigeon in real life.
Wow. I want to mention again this National Geographic photographer that you are working with. His name's Charlie Hamilton James, right? Uh,
Yes, sir.
you say in the documentary that, quote, Charlie weaponized my ability to dream.
Yes, sir.
What do you mean by that?
It means that he really pushed me to think of myself as beyond an event photographer, that I could live the dream of becoming a wildlife photographer. It didn't matter where I came from. So Charlie, he was very instrumental in that. My other mentor, Vincent J. Musi, he was also very instrumental in that. They really pushed me and they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and the ability to dream and just get out there and do it regardless of where I came from.
We're speaking with photographer George McKenzie Jr. He's featured in the new documentary, The Book of George. You can check it out on YouTube or the LA Times website. George, do you think that your background as someone who didn't grow up surrounded by nature, right, did that provide a unique perspective for your photography?
Yes, 1000%. It I'm in constant awe of everything I see. So I don't take it for granted. For instance, I just learned about seasonality last year. So I now understand why certain fruits taste a certain way at a certain time of the year. And supermarkets, especially when you grow up in urban environments in a place like New York City, you tend to go into the supermarket and you expect everything to be there whenever you walk in. However, for a young kid who's developing their his or her taste buds, strawberry is going to taste good 1 week, and the next week it's going to taste like, why does it taste like this? Well, it's not in season anymore, and it's coming from a developing country. It's so many different factors. So because of that, I am continuously growing, learning, and my logic and my perception of the natural world is constantly being changed and iterated.
You talk about your sense of awe. It's a beautiful documentary, and there's a great scene where you're taking some photos. You're surrounded by birds, and they all explode up around you, flying up into the sky. And the look on your face, says it all.
Well, there are those pigeons. So
Those are your
they're
pigeons.
yeah, they have essentially changed my life. And every time I go home, I just came back from being home. I was doing a talk at the Explorers Club this past Monday, and I take the time to feed pigeons. So I'll go to the cart on the store on the corner, buy some old donuts or something like that, and I'll sit in the park. I'm like the old guy sitting there just feeding pigeons, talking to myself, talking to the birds, telling them not to fight, all
You,
of that stuff.
you talk about the Explorers. Can you tell us what that is?
The Explorers Club, it's an organization started in 1904. It's built for exploration and innovation. It's on the Upper East Side, East 70th Street, and it's just been instrumental for me to have a place when I go home that offers me a sanctuary, an office. I can sit there, do work, connect with fellow explorers, learn so much. I actually have to give a huge shout out since I'm on the radio, and my friend just texted me, Joseph. Huge shout out to Frankie, my friend Perry, all of us, all those people who came out, Martin, Francois, Natty, all the people that came out and said hi and allowed me to have this experience, and a lot of love for the Explorers Club for welcoming me into that organization. I cannot say thank you enough for that.
You talk about, starting out working with that National Geographic photographer, and the documentary also shows you now mentoring a young photographer and teaching him what you know. Why is mentorship important to you?
Because I'm a direct descendant of being a mentee. I wouldn't be where I was if it wasn't for my mentors, for the people who saw something in me and took a chance on me before I believed in myself. And it allows me I'm at the richest stage in my life. And it's not because I have resources, it's because I have the ability to give back with no expectation of anything. I just want these young people to see themselves and understand that their point of view is valid and their opinions are important.
You,
And that's
you.
why.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You practice something called, correct me if I'm saying this the wrong way, but camera traps for your
Yes, sir.
wildlife photography. For those who are not familiar, can you talk about what that is, how that works?
I set up basically a professional studio in the wild, and I allowed the animal in its natural movement to document and take their own picture. So it's the easiest way for me to put it is to like setting up a selfie camera in the wild with lights, with triggers, and triggers meaning triggers to trigger the shutter and the lights to go off at the same time, and for people to be able to see what the animal movement looks like in the wild without humans around, because a lot of animals are so perceptive and so risk averse to interacting with humans, they are not going to behave naturally. So bears, for instance, especially in Florida, we have four different distinct populations of Florida black bears. Their sense of smell is so great that they will smell me a mile away before I
Hmm.
even get. So because of that, I really work my best and do my best to set up and study their movement and set up a camera trap system in the wild and let them operate like they normally would.
And you don't just set this up anywhere. There's a lot of research and thought that goes into where you need to place a camera, right?
Yes, a lot of research and a lot of trail cams looking at animal movement and animal patterns before I actually deploy a system. Actually, right after we get off of this, I'm actually going to go check my last trap, which had a panther and the bear pass through within the past week.
Wow. Do you have a favorite animal to photograph?
Right now, it is the Florida black bear, and I didn't know Florida had bears until I moved to Florida, and I saw this bear running up a palm tree to get palm berries, and I was like, I can't even do a pull-up. It's like 500-pound bear running up a tree. It just blew my mind.
It's certainly not what I think of when I think about Florida, right? But just a final thought. Are there aspects of your upbringing as a New Yorker that you carry, stay with you today, that are still important in your life and work? How does New York still follow you to the Florida Everglades?
So my best answer is this. New York taught me how to look. Before I was photographing panthers or bears in the Everglades, I was watching people, pigeons, the street, light bouncing off of buildings, things most people walk past. That became the foundation for my wildlife work. I don't know. I don't think I'd be the wildlife photographer I am today if it weren't for that foundation that I built in New York City.
Well, the work looks incredible. You should check it out. You can see some of it in this documentary. Photographer George McKenzie Jr., the subject of that new documentary, The Book of George. You can catch it on YouTube or the LA Times website. And George McKenzie Jr., thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, sir. You have a great day. Happy 4th, everyone.
Happy 4th.